Today, we are going to be talking about the unsolved disappearance of Karlie Guse. Karlie Guse is a 16-year-old girl who went missing from Chalfont, California on October 13th, 2018. She is 5'7", she is 115 pounds, she has blue eyes and dark blonde hair. Karlie has been missing for about 6 months now. Karlie Guse lived in Chalfont, California with her dad, Zach Guse, her stepmom, Melissa Guse, and her 2 younger brothers. Karlie's mother, Lindsay Farley, and Karlie's father, Zach, got divorced when she was about 2 years old. Now, until she was 6 years old, she actually lived with her mother, but then her mother decided to move to Nevada, so when she was 6, she actually decided to move in with her father because, Nevada was pretty far from where she lived. She didn't want to have to move schools, she wanted to stay by her friends, so she just decided to stay in California with her dad. By all accounts, Karlie had a very good childhood growing up. She maintained a pretty good relationship with her parents and her stepmom. She had a lot of friends growing up. She did well in school and was liked by pretty much everyone she knew. She was described as happy, sweet, funny, and popular. Lindsay said that her and Karlie were best friends and told each other everything. They really did have a very close relationship despite Lindsay living so far away. In the beginning of October of 2018, Karlie moved away from her house in Bishop to a new town about 10 miles away in Chalfont, which is where she was living at the time that she went missing. Now, Karlie wasn't really bothered by this because it's not like she had to move schools or anything like that, so it wasn't really that big of a deal to her. Melissa, her stepmother, said that she was still the happy kid that she always had been. Now, on Friday, October 12th, 2018, Karlie asked her parents if she could go to her high school's football game, and of course, they said yes, so she went. However, she didn't actually end up going to the high school football game, and instead, she went to a party with her boyfriend, Donald. Now, around 8 p.m., Melissa texted Karlie to ask her if she needed a ride home, and at first, she said no. But then she quickly changed her mind and actually called Melissa to ask her to come pick her up immediately because she wasn't feeling well, and as she was kind of driving, she asked her not to hang up the phone. She seemed very urgent, like she needed to be picked up right then and there. She told Melissa that she was at the back of Highlands, which is a mobile home park. Melissa said, okay, she's on her way, and tried staying on the phone, but they didn't have the greatest service, so the call dropped. She called back and eventually got a hold of Karlie again, but at this point she was no longer at Highlands and she was actually about a mile away, running down the street on Dixon Street with her phone in her hand. When Melissa arrived and Karlie hopped in the car, Melissa said that Karlie seemed kind of frantic and agitated. She asked Karlie why she needed to be picked up right away, and this is when Karlie told Melissa that they had been smoking weed at the party. She said she was sorry, she said please don't be mad, and she just wanted to go home. Now, like I said, Karlie was acting very frantic and paranoid, and Melissa was really confused why she was acting this way because apparently Karlie had smoked pot before, so it's not like this was the first time she smoked. It's not like this could have been some bad reaction. Some people do have bad reactions to pot. It's very possible, but in this case, it didn't seem likely because she had smoked pot before and never had this kind of reaction. Melissa said Karlie was acting extremely erratically, and it actually took her 15 minutes just to calm her down a little bit. Melissa was still pretty confused and concerned, but she did not think that her physical health was in danger. She didn't think this was urgent enough to take Karlie to the emergency room or anything like that because she still seemed pretty aware. She was still kind of there having a conversation, able to hold a conversation, so she was just acting pretty strangely, but nothing that was crazy enough to take her to the ER. Karlie and Melissa got back to the house around 9 p.m. At this point, Karlie's dad, Zach, was already at home. He was just hanging out, drinking some beer after work. He too said that Karlie was acting very paranoid. He said that this did not seem like she had been smoking pot and it must have been something else because she was just acting so strangely, and he said that her pupils were completely dilated. He thinks that she was either given something else at a party, like a different drug, or that the marijuana had been laced. He said that she was just standing in the corner acting afraid, but when he asked her why she was so scared, she just kept saying, I don't know. She kept acting like she was afraid of her parents, but then would go from that to just saying, I love you guys, and you guys are the best, and things like that. So she was just going from acting completely bizarre and paranoid one moment to kind of normal the next moment. Apparently, this is when Melissa decided to make a recording of Karlie to kind of show her the next day, show her what happens when she was on drugs, how the drugs made her act, and just let it be a little bit of a lesson. Now, Melissa put it on video, but then she put the video in her pocket, so she just took an audio recording so that Karlie would not know that she was recording. Now, I have not personally heard this recording. It has not been released, but it's been reported certain ways, so I'm just going to tell you what I read, what I heard, but again, I haven't actually heard this recording myself. So apparently in this recording, Karlie just kept saying that she was scared. Melissa kept trying to get Karlie to eat a salad, but she wouldn't. She wouldn't eat anything, and when Melissa asked her why she wouldn't eat the salad, Karlie apparently said that it was the devil's lettuce. Melissa said to Karlie, you know, maybe you should just go to bed, but Karlie was like, no, Melissa, you are going to kill me. Of course, Melissa was like, what are you talking about? What's going on? And Karlie said, I don't know, I just am having these demonic thoughts. Now, apparently, Melissa tried showing this recording to Lindsay, Karlie's mother, but she didn't really listen to the whole thing. However, they apparently gave this recording to Lindsay's private investigator, and that's when Lindsay actually heard this recording. Lindsay claims that Karlie was begging Melissa to call 911, but that Melissa was refusing. But Melissa came back and said that this wasn't true. According to Melissa, Karlie said, if something were to happen, would you call 911? And Melissa said, of course. However, at first, Melissa would not let anyone listen to this tape. She said they didn't want to release this tape. And when Melissa and Zach appeared on the Dr. Phil show, he asked why he wasn't allowed to hear the tape. And they just said that, you know, they didn't think that it would help. It's an ongoing investigation. Things like that. She said there's no reason for anyone else to hear this recording. But Dr. Phil was like, you know, I'm an expert. I would be able to help if I heard this recording because I know about the different drugs, their side effects, what areas of the brain these drugs are affecting.
At one point you filmed her, right?
I used like the filmer, but it's just audio because I stuck it in my pocket so she wouldn't know that I was recording her.
Okay.
So you could show her the next day how she sounded on drugs, you know, like what is this?
Like a life lesson, like this
we
is
were
what
gonna deal with it
happens.
the next day for sure.
Let
like,
her hear herself.
Yeah.
And I wanted to hear that tape, but you didn't let us hear that tape. Tell me why. I wasn't.
It's an ongoing investigation still. This is
The FBI
ongoing.
have it, the sheriffs have it. It's not gonna, I don't think it's gonna solve the mystery of where she is.
Well, you don't know what I might know or what I might not know. I would very much have liked to have heard that tape. Is there a reason that I didn't hear that tape?
Nobody
No.
asked.
No.
No.
Did anybody ask us?
I don't even think
Oh,
anybody
we
really
asked. Yeah, we asked because
There's no reason. It
I've
doesn't.
dealt with every
I mean,
I've dealt with every kind of mind-altering drug in the
Right.
world in 45 years, and I can learn a lot by what part of the brain is involved, whether it's limbic system, whether it's neocortex, what's going on, is it pushed verbalizations, is it confusion? I mean, what's going on?
Right.
It tells me a lot,
Right.
and I was really interested to hear the tape, but we were told we couldn't have the tape, and I was curious why.
I mean, you can listen to the tape. I don't want the world to listen to the tape.
But she really just did not want to let anyone hear this tape. However, there was so much argument between Lindsay and Melissa about what was said on the tape that they actually did let Dr. Phil listen to this tape. Dr. Phil did say that it was very obvious that Karlie was acting extremely paranoid and delusional. He said that she was clearly on some other drug like LSD and not marijuana, and that Melissa was not really doing the greatest job of calming Karlie down. He also agreed with Melissa that Karlie said, "Would you call 911?" And Melissa said, "What do you mean?" And Karlie said, like, if I needed you to call 911, like if I was dying, would you call 911? And Melissa said, yes, of course I would if you needed me to. So that just kind of clears up this whole argument on what was actually said on the tape. Now, jumping back to the night of October 12th. After making this audio recording and finally getting Karlie to calm down a little bit, they finally got Karlie to bed. Now, at At first, Melissa reported to Dateline NBC that she put Karlie to bed and then went off to her own room and slept in her own room. She said then the next morning around 5:45 a.m., she went into Karlie's room and saw her sleeping, went to check on her other children who were also in bed, and then she went back to bed and then woke up again around 7:30. She said she went back to Karlie's room again to check if she was there, and this time Karlie was not in her bed. She went back into her room and told Zach, "Honey, she's not here." And Zach said, "What do you mean she's not here?" And Melissa said, "She's gone. She's not in her room. She's not outside. She's not in the backyard. She's not anywhere." However, Melissa later changed her story and said that she actually spent the entire night in Karlie's room and slept in her bed because Karlie asked her to stay with her. She then woke up around 5:45 a.m., saw Karlie still sleeping next to her, then fell back asleep still in Karlie's bed, then woke up around 7:30 to see Karlie missing. Now, when she was asked about these inconsistencies, she basically said that she didn't really know what to say in the beginning. She admitted that it was a false story, and she said she regrets even doing the NBC Dateline interview. Now, after realizing that Karlie was not there, she noticed that the bedroom door was still cracked like it had been all night. So she got up, looked around in the living room, and noticed that the front door was slightly open. And this is when she went and told Zach, "Honey, she's gone." At first, they were a little concerned, but they thought that Karlie maybe had just gone for a walk. They were worried because of her state of mind the night before, but it wasn't all that out of the ordinary for Karlie to just kind of get up and go take a walk. However, they noticed that she left her cell phone at home, and this is when they were really alarmed because she always had her cell phone with her. This is when they started looking around the neighborhood for Karlie. Melissa went in her car and Zach went in his truck, and they drove around separately to try and find her. Again, they assumed that maybe she had just gone out for a walk and that they'd find her pretty quickly.
I fell asleep, and then I had woken up around 7:15, and I had spent the whole night with her in her room, and when I woke up, she wasn't next to me anymore. I looked over and I'm like, "Karlie," and I started to panic instantly because she didn't answer, and she had stayed next to me in the bed all night. She didn't want me to leave her side, and she asked me to go to bed with her. And after just her demeanor and the way she was acting, and then waking up and her not being there, it was just like instant panic because I'm like, she's not there, and then she's not in the house, and you think you're gonna find her just walking down the road, and she wasn't anywhere.
Now, apparently someone in the neighborhood told Melissa that he saw Karlie at around 6:30 that morning. He was looking out of his window when he saw Karlie walking around, looking at the sky with a piece of paper in her hand. At around 7:30 a.m., a man claimed to see Karlie walking behind a fence on the side of the road on Highway 6. Zach and Melissa continued to search for Karlie, but they went back home at around 9:30 because they just could not find her. This was when Zach called Lindsay and told her that Karlie was gone. He basically said that she just went to a party and now she's gone. She kept asking him all of these questions, and he's like, "I don't know. She just went to a party and now she's gone." Lindsay immediately started her 9-hour car drive to the Guse home in Chalfont, California. After getting off of the phone with Lindsay, Zach then called the police to report Karlie as missing. Police showed up to the house a few hours later, and when they looked around, they noticed that there was no sign of a struggle or foul play. At first, they just assumed that she was a runaway, which I know a lot of people will kind of bash police for doing in situations like this, but really in this case, that's just what it seemed like. It really did seem like she had just walked off. They really just did not think that there was any sign of foul play, so they didn't treat the house like a crime scene or anything like that. Police kind of asked the family what they thought happened, and they said that they were very confident that she just walked off because she had been seen by multiple witnesses, but then after that, after she was never seen again, they have absolutely no idea what could have happened. Now, even though she was just considered a missing person, they were still treating this as a missing endangered person. This disappearance was just so strange, so it prompted a multi-day intensive search with helicopters, sniffer dogs, a search and rescue team, off-road vehicles. They tried searching as thoroughly as they could, but they found nothing. Now, when Melissa originally spoke to police, she told them that Karlie was wearing a t-shirt and blue skinny jeans last time she saw her. However, witnesses say that she was wearing dark gray sweatpants, a white t-shirt, and Vans shoes. When asked about this inconsistency, Melissa said that she had just assumed that Karlie was wearing skinny jeans because that's what she was always wearing. When Melissa appeared on the Dr. Phil show, she changed her statement again and said that the last time she had seen her, Karlie was wearing just her t-shirt and her underwear because that's what she wore to bed. Now, obviously, it's very possible that she could have been wearing skinny jeans when she got home. She went to bed in her underwear, and then when she got up, she changed into these gray sweatpants. But it is just a little bit strange that she would have told police what she was wearing when she didn't see her leave and she didn't know for sure. You'd think that maybe she would say that she wasn't sure what she was wearing because she didn't see her before she left, and you can just assume that she's not going to just walk out in her underwear. So I'm just not sure why she would say that as fact, instead of just being like, she might have been wearing skinny jeans, but I'm not sure. Now, Melissa was asked, well, does she have a pair of gray sweatpants missing? Are her skinny jeans in her hamper? Maybe these sightings weren't really of Karlie if you know what she was wearing or if you can see what's missing. However, Melissa was kind of like, I don't know, do you know everything that your kids own and what your kids wear all the time? Which is understandable, but you'd think that they would maybe look around, try and figure out what was missing, really try to pin down what she was wearing, but this didn't really seem like that important to her. They were asked a couple of different questions about what clothing items were missing, what were there, but they didn't really have any answers. Now, when police got a hold of phone records, it came out that around 2 a.m. on October 13th, the morning Karlie went missing, Melissa sent a text to Karlie's boyfriend, Donald, saying, "Pray for her." There was no response from Donald to this text message, so we don't really know what this means. There's no real context to this message. We don't really know how often they communicated, how often they said things like this to each other, so we don't really know what it means. We couldn't really get anything from Karlie's phone or basically any of her personal belongings because she had left them all at the home when she left. Now, Donald did show up to the house the next day, I guess the same day because it was 2 a.m., so the day that Karlie went missing, he showed up and he said that Karlie's phone was sitting on her nightstand. But Melissa is adamant that the phone was sitting on the kitchen counter and it had been there since the night before. So this is just another kind of weird inconsistency. Now, when Melissa was questioned about Karlie's paranoid behavior, Melissa was being pretty vague. Melissa said that she didn't know what Karlie was afraid of, why she was acting paranoid. She didn't really give any much details of what Karlie was actually doing or saying, just that she was being scared and paranoid, which can mean a lot of things. It can mean that she's pacing. It can mean that she's saying absolutely crazy things. It could mean that she's shaking or sitting in a corner and rocking. We don't really know because they won't let anyone else hear the tape that was recorded, so we don't know the exact details from that night. Now, something else that was a little bit strange is that she was seen wearing just a t-shirt and jeans. Now, even though California is pretty warm most of the time, the morning temperatures in October can drop as low as 40 to 50 degrees, so it would have been a little bit chilly for her to just walk around in a t-shirt without a jacket. Again, she could have just still been in this delusional state, or maybe she just didn't care, or maybe she didn't think that it was that cold or anything like that, but it's just a little bit strange. Additionally, there are a little bit of inconsistencies with the timeline. As I said before, Melissa last saw Karlie at around 5:45 that morning. Then a neighbor saw her an hour later at 6:30 that morning. And then she wasn't seen again for another hour when she was seen on the side of the highway at 7:30. But this highway was only a 20-25 minute walk from her neighborhood. So it's a little bit strange that it would have taken her an hour to walk there. Now, we don't necessarily know what was going through Karlie's head when she was walking. Maybe she was just wandering aimlessly, didn't take a straight path, and just kind of ended up strolling onto the highway. Maybe she was walking over to the highway with a purpose of going somewhere. But either way, there's a decent amount of time that just goes completely unaccounted for between witness sightings. We don't really know exactly what happened or where she went. I do want to point out that to me, it is a little bit strange that the time she was seen, so around 6:30 and 7:30, is the exact times that Melissa said that she was sleeping, but then the time that she said she woke up around 7:30, she was never seen again. Now, I'm not trying to make any weird connections that aren't there. I'm not trying to say say that Melissa, did something to her after this time or anything like that. I just think that that's a little bit strange, and that's just stuck out to me a little bit. Ever since the day Karlie went missing, Melissa has been extremely active on social media. The same day that Karlie went missing, she went live on Facebook to talk about everything that happened.
My name is Melissa Guse. If you're going to watch this video, please do not have the kids around. Karlie Lane Guse is missing still. She's been missing since... Breathe. She's been missing since 6:30 a.m. The last time that I spoke to her was 5:30. She didn't take her cell phone. We're coming up on 10 hours, and I'm putting this out there because it's going on 10 hours that she's been missing, and I want to put this on blast because I don't think she's out in the desert. I think that she could have been abducted or taken because we do live on a highway, and it happens, and I'm being real, and I just want to let everybody know. I want to put this on blast because I don't know what to do to consider her a missing person. You can't do an Amber Alert because she didn't leave in a car, and I don't have a physical description of a vehicle. She's 5'7", about 115 pounds. She has blue eyes and the cutest little nose and a great smile, and her hair goes all the way down past her, like to her belly, let's say, mid-waist. And this was last year's picture. She's a little bit different, but not much. She's still like adorably cute. She doesn't wear makeup and everything. She left in her jeans and a t-shirt. So I'm putting it out there and just go for it. Everybody help me out here. I love you all. Everybody please watch. Share your friends. Share my friends. Share everybody. Just share the shit out of it. All right? Thank you.
Ever since then, she's been reaching out to people like Sean Hannity, Dr. Phil, and she has not stopped posting about Karlie on social media. Now, before I get into the theories in this case, I want to talk about what Lindsay, Karlie's mother, has said about this entire situation. She said that when Zach first called her, it stuck out to her that Zach used the word gone. She says that this is something that you say when someone's gone for good. She said that he very well should have said something like missing or something like that, but he said gone, and that stuck out to her. She also said that the night before Karlie went missing, Zach had been drinking and was intoxicated and was just kind of drifting in and out of sleep the entire night. She says this is probably why Zach and Melissa have been inconsistent with their stories and kind of have been lying. She thinks that they know a lot more about Karlie's disappearance than they're letting on.
I received a phone call at 9:35 a.m. from Zach, and his response was, "Lindsay, Karlie's gone." My heart sunk. I was, what do you mean she's gone? What led up to this? Where was she? Who was she with? Question after question. And his response was, "I don't know, she's just gone. She went to a party."
And are you paraphrasing, or was that exactly what he said when you picked up the phone?
When I picked up the phone?
Yeah, when he called you, and was that exactly what he said?
We had a couple different phone calls within
But when he
like
said, did he say
30-minute time.
she's gone?
He said she was gone, yes.
Those were the words
gone.
that he used.
And it stuck out like just a sore thumb.
Gone.
Gone.
And at that point, what did you think gone meant?
Dead. I mean, that's a big word. Gone is, you can't mess with gone. It's either they're gone for good or they're, it just didn't sit right.
He didn't say she's missing, he said she's gone.
Yeah.
Why do you believe that Zach and Melissa aren't telling the full truth here?
Because he was intoxicated to start with. He let us know when we arrived 9 hours after Karlie went missing that he had been drinking the night before. And he told us in the beginning that he was kind of in and out of sleeping. So he wasn't awake, according to my story that I received from him.
One of the biggest things, again, that sticks out to Lindsay is the audio recording of Karlie that night. Lindsay is still very adamant that Karlie did call out for someone to call 911. She said that Karlie called out Mom, so she was calling for her, and that Melissa said, "I'm not Mom, I'm Melissa." And Karlie said, "I'm sorry, I'm just really scared." Lindsay said that at First, Melissa said, yes, I'll call 911, but then there was a long pause, and then Karlie said, so are you going to call 911? And Melissa said, no, there's nothing wrong.
I think that the audio that I heard about was really bizarre.
And did you hear the audio?
I heard part of it.
Okay, and in the part of it you heard, was there anything significant that stuck out to you?
She had asked them to call 911.
Okay, she asked them to call 911.
The specific details in the audio were she had cried out to Melissa. She called out for my name, actually, and she said, Mom. And Melissa goes, I'm Melissa, silly. And she goes, I'm sorry. I'm just really, really scared. At that point, I figured, you know, what is she scared of? Because what is so scary that this little girl's asking to call 911 and you're telling them no? And so when Karlie said, can you call 911? Melissa said, yes. There was a part where she said yes. And then there was a distant pause. And Karlie said, are you going to call 911? And Melissa said, no. And she goes, well, why not? And she goes, there's nothing wrong.
Now, again, we know that Dr. Phil did confirm what Karlie really said, but either way, it could be interpreted that Karlie was trying to get someone to call 911. I completely understand why Lindsay heard it the way she did. What she heard was her daughter begging for Melissa to call 911 and Melissa saying no. You can interpret it whichever way you want, but either way, this was a girl who was asking for some sort of help. Lindsay does believe that Melissa does have something to do with Karlie's disappearance. This is what Lindsay believes is exactly what happened to Karlie. She believes that Karlie had a drug overdose. Karlie knew that something was wrong, so she asked Melissa for help, but Melissa just kept saying no. Then, in the early mornings of October 13th, Melissa saw Karlie laying there with her eyes open, and then she passed away. That's what Lindsay happened, and if you want, look up the video of her saying this because she is just absolutely heartbroken. She does not want to point fingers or just blame people aimlessly or just drag people's name through the mud. She just wants to figure out what happened to her daughter, and this is what she thinks all of the signs point to. So that is what Lindsay believes happened. Now I'm going to get into some of the other main theories that a lot of people believe in. First, people believe that Karlie could be a victim of human trafficking. Now, we all know that human trafficking is a massive problem all around the world and in this country. It could be very possible that Karlie woke up and was still delusional and completely paranoid and then just walked off onto the highway. This is when she could have been picked up by someone and then was sold into sex trafficking. Now, there have been a lot of different sightings of Karlie. None of them have been confirmed, but it's possible that people may have seen her, but we don't really know because, again, these sightings have never been confirmed. Being sold into sex trafficking can also explain why she's been off the grid and why she's never turned up or been found. However, again, none of the sightings have been confirmed, but I do think that this is a very, unfortunately, possible and very plausible theory. The next theory is that Karlie just decided to run off on her own and has been hiding ever since. Now, there are two parts to this theory, but honestly, neither of them sounds very plausible to me, so I'm just going to go over them very briefly. The first theory within this theory is that maybe she just woke up that morning, was completely normal, and just decided to go missing. Now, obviously, I don't think this is very likely at all because there was no reason for her to go missing. I mean, she could have maybe just felt so bad and so embarrassed about her behavior when she was reacting badly to these drugs, but I honestly don't think that that's the case, that she would feel so bad that she decided to run off or anything like that. Honestly, what I get from this, to me, her parents seemed relatively fair. They recorded her so that the next day when she was in a good state of mind, she could hear herself and how she was reacting to these drugs, how she was behaving, and kind of teach her a lesson to hopefully steer her away from doing drugs in the future. They didn't seem like super strict people that would be extremely harsh and unforgiving. It didn't seem like, she would be really punished really badly and that, maybe she was trying to avoid that, or maybe she was trying to run off because they were so ashamed of her. I don't think it was anything like that. Again, they seemed like pretty fair and understanding parents to me. Before this, she did seem like a very happy person in general and just really had no other reason to leave. The next theory, which is absolutely, completely ridiculous, is that Karlie is actually a drug addict and then ran off and is homeless somewhere just doing drugs all the time. People point to the fact that she's a little bit skinny and that, you know, maybe she just is doing drugs and that's why she's so skinny. But I mean, how many 16-year-olds have you seen that are skinny, that have fast metabolisms, and, you know, she was active, she loved dancing, she had every reason to be skinny. I mean, again, she's a teenager with a fast metabolism like all teenagers have. So this theory is just kind of absolutely ridiculous to me, and so I'm not going to be spending any more time on this one. Now, the next theory, just kind of like the first theory, is that she woke up in the early morning, was still disoriented and out of it, and that she walked off onto the highway and was taken. However, rather than being sold into sex trafficking, maybe she was just kidnapped by some random person. Maybe this random person is holding her captive, or maybe they murdered her. Now, this is a more rural area of California, so it's possible that she could have been taken without being seen, and possibly drove with her in the car and took her somewhere without anyone noticing. Maybe he killed her and they just haven't found her body yet, or maybe she's alive and someone's just keeping her captive. I definitely do think that this is a plausible theory. It's not unheard of for some sicko to just see some pretty young girl who's really small and just decided to take her. Again, she was only about 115 pounds, so it's not like, you know, she would have been super difficult to take. Or maybe she was still very confused and out of it, and someone just drove up, offered her a ride, and she willingly got into the car with someone. Either way, I do think that this is a very plausible theory, and it's definitely more likely than the theory that we just got done talking about. Now, the last theory, which is a theory a lot of people believe in, is that Melissa and possibly Zach had something to do with this. Now, I do want to say that police are looking at Melissa, but I don't think she's really a suspect or anything like that, but people are kind of looking at her. So, again, Melissa was extremely inconsistent with her stories and what she told police. It is extremely strange for someone who just lost a child like that to not be very forthcoming with information or statements. We do know that her stories changed multiple times, and when she was asked why, she didn't really have any answers. Most parents in this situation would do absolutely everything that they could to come forward and share absolutely everything that they knew so that someone would see her or maybe come forward with more information. It is a little bit weird to me that she said, kind of like it was a fact, that she was wearing jeans when she didn't see her leave and she really didn't actually know what she was wearing. It very well could have been that she really did think that she was wearing skinny jeans. I mean, if she wears them pretty much every day, it makes sense why she would say that. But again, if she wasn't 100% sure, didn't actually see her wearing skinny jeans, why would she even say that? Again, she could have just been like, I think she was wearing skinny jeans. She normally wears skinny jeans. I didn't necessarily see her, but this is what I think she was wearing. It honestly just, if nothing else, makes her look better. I mean, when you come out with a statement that turns out to be false and you admit that you knew that it was false, it just makes you look bad. And if she really is out there, it kind of turns the attention towards her and not towards looking for her. That's kind of just what I take from it. Again, people could just be looking into this way too much, but it's just something to think about. It's also strange that in her first interview with Dateline, her story changed. Most of the inconsistencies can be explained in one way or another. Again, the jeans thing very well could be explained, but it doesn't really make sense to me why she would lie about this story. I just don't understand the reasoning for lying about what happened that night. Even if this is the very beginning, even if you're nervous or shocked, it just does not make any sense to me why you would just make up this story. I mean, this seems like something that is so important, that is kind of a big part of the story, that you wouldn't want to lie about this. The timeline of the night before she went missing is so incredibly important to get down to exactly what she remembers. Why would she lie about it at first? Even if she came out and said, I know it's false, this isn't actually what happened, this is actually what happened, it still doesn't make up for the fact that she lied about it at first. And even after saying that, how do we know that the second story she came out with is the real one? How do we know that just because she says, oh, the first one was false and this one is the real one? We don't actually know that that's true. Now, with that being said, I don't think Melissa ever had any ill intent. I don't think that she just had it out for Karlie. I don't think that she was planning on doing something to Karlie and just wanted to wait till the perfect time. I think what is most likely within this theory is along the lines of what Lindsay believes. I think that maybe they realized they weren't being as responsible as they should have been. Again, Zach was drinking beer. Lindsay said that he seemed completely intoxicated. Maybe he wasn't paying attention enough or wasn't taking this seriously enough because he was intoxicated. Maybe Melissa just, again, wasn't taking it as seriously, and maybe in retrospect they realized that they weren't being as responsible as they should have been. Maybe in retrospect they realized that she really was in danger and she should have been taken to the emergency room. Maybe she was acting so erratically and completely out of control in these audio recordings that if we listened to them, we would hear exactly how bad she really was. Maybe they don't want people judging them or blaming them for not doing anything when they clearly should have. Maybe her marijuana was laced with something really bad. Maybe she was offered a different drug at this party. I mean, she was young. Maybe she was just in party mode, wasn't thinking about the consequences, and just kind of took what was offered to her. She, again, was very small. She was 5'7" and weighed 115 pounds. It's very possible that if something was given to her, that it was just too much for her, especially if it was given to her by a bigger guy or maybe her boyfriend, someone that's bigger than her, and they gave her the amount that they would take, that it easily could have been too much. Maybe she knew that she had these drugs in her system. She wasn't quite feeling right. She knew that something was wrong, and she called Melissa right away to come pick her up. Maybe as Melissa was driving to get her, these drugs really started to kick in pretty bad, and that's why she was acting so bizarrely all of a sudden. Maybe when she got home and was exhibiting these crazy behaviors, Zach and Melissa just thought that this was something that she could just sleep off. It's not crazy to think that they didn't think that this was life-threatening, that maybe they underestimated how much or what she had in her system. Someone who's not really familiar with drugs, doesn't know how it affects your body, doesn't know the side effects, very well could just think, oh, she'll just sleep it off, she'll be fine in the morning. That's what you do with alcohol, that's what you do with marijuana. Maybe they just didn't realize that, she can't just sleep it off. Maybe when they got her to go to bed, that's when she possibly fell asleep or passed out, and maybe that's when she died from a drug overdose. Maybe at this point, Melissa didn't realize what happened. Maybe at this point, she thought Karlie was just asleep, or maybe Melissa even was asleep herself and didn't even see what happened. Maybe she didn't realize this, and then when she woke up, she realized what happened. She could have called over to Zach, told him exactly what happened. They probably very obviously felt extremely guilty about this, but did not want to lose their 2 other children over this. If they were thought to have completely neglected her when she was acting very erratically, they could have been charged with something like manslaughter for not taking her to the hospital and not doing more. Maybe they hid her body somewhere or buried her somewhere and she just has never been found. Again, I do not think that they would have put her to bed knowing that she was going to overdose. I do think that if they thought that she was going to overdose, or that if these drugs really were that bad, I do think that they would have taken her to the hospital. But I just think that they were naive. I just think that they didn't realize what was happening, and so they just put her to bed and didn't take her to the ER. I absolutely do not think that there was malice behind anything, but they didn't want to go to jail for the rest of their lives and lose their sons and leave them without parents. Again, this is just pure speculation. I could be completely wrong. I mean, again, we don't know exactly what happened. We really don't know anything, honestly, besides the timeline that Melissa gave us and that audio recording. I do trust what Dr. Phil says that he heard, and I do obviously think that it exists. I think that they don't want to release it again. I think that a lot of people would judge them. I think a lot of people would point the finger at them if they heard this recording, and that's why they don't want to release it. But again, we could be way off or we could be spot on. It's very possible that these drugs didn't cause her to overdose and that she did wake up one morning, wandered off still with the drugs in her system, and got picked up by someone that had ill intent. It's possible that she did die of a drug overdose and that they did something to her. It's possible that something completely different could have happened. I mean, again, we only know the timeline that Melissa gave us, so we don't know for 100% fact if it even happened the way that she said it did. Either way, until she is found or someone comes forward, we will probably never know exactly for sure what happened. Karlie Guse is a beautiful young girl with a lot of life left to live. She is 5'7" and weighs about 115 pounds. She has blue eyes, dark blonde hair, and was thought to be wearing a white t-shirt, dark gray sweatpants, and Vans shoes when she went missing. If you know anything, heard anything, saw anything, contact the Mono County Police Department at 760-932-7549. Karlie has been missing for 6 months, and there's not much information to go off of. I know if you watch a lot of true crime videos, you might hear this a lot, but even if you know something that sounds extremely small or minute or insignificant to you, it could be exactly the piece that investigators need to put this whole thing together. You never know what even the smallest tip can lead to. I do think within the next coming months, I really think that we're going to find out what happened. I hope that we find out what happened. I do think that it is really good that they went on the Dr. Phil show because it's giving this case so much publicity. If she really is out there somewhere, I really hope that someone sees her and recognizes her. I hope that if someone knows something that they're not saying, that they come forward. Again, she did not deserve to die. She did not deserve to go missing. She deserves to be found. She deserves to be brought home. Thank you guys for watching this video.